Hi everyone, we are about to get started
with the new episode of the Money Talks. Just waiting for. Oh yeah, there you go. Hi, Jasmeet. How are
What's
you?
up? What's up? All good, Eddie. What's up?
All good. Are you nicely home quarantined?
No, I'm actually going to work. So I just came back, took a shower, came on a call with you.
Oh, nice, nice, good. I'm glad to have you on board. So, you know, maybe I should tell the audience a little bit uh, about you before we get started. So, guys, everyone who has already joined in, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Money Talks, and last week we had Harsh Shah of Find. Jasmeet, you were on the show as well, and thankfully we got a chance to invite you while we were on episode number
Yeah.
1, and you agreed, and now you're
Yeah,
here.
sure. Yep.
So I'm glad you're here. Really excited to talk a little bit about your journey. But so let me get started. Jasmeet, you obviously have been a founder now, coming on 5 years almost.
4 years.
4 years, okay. So
Yeah.
still pretty young, still pretty
Yeah.
early in the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to let you guys know, I've known Jasmeet now since 2016. We invested in his seed round, and then we've gone on to do 2 more rounds in the company. The company has recently raised $3 million from a clutch of investors between India and China.
Yep.
And of late, Jasmeet, because he cannot travel to China anymore, has been spending a lot more time in India.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, Jasmeet, maybe give a little bit of a brief to the audience about what Coutloot does, what your
Yeah.
role is, and your journey so far.
Sure. So what Coutloot does is, we live in a country where there's a lot of offline stores, and that's where probably we buy a lot of the products from. So what Coutloot does is something very, very simple, but yet something very impactful. We help small shopkeepers, individual sellers sell online within seconds through a mobile phone. And when I say within seconds, it's literally within seconds. So small shopkeepers, and also because of the COVID situation, all the shops are shut. And धंधा नहीं हो रहा, right? I mean, they want to sell the product, but धंधा बंद है. Online to sell on Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, it's a task. So how do you sell online? That's where we come in. We help us digitize small stores, take all the inventory online, and help them sell via a bargain and buy model, so that people like you and me, your favorite Gupta stores is, selling to somebody in New Delhi, and he's making money. And so that's what we try to do. We're trying to digitize the economy, empower small sellers, and create an impact, in the country. That's what Coutloot does.
It's interesting that you would say Delhi and Gupta ji, because I believe you have some co-founders from Delhi. So maybe you could
Yeah.
just introduce them. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my co-founders, Mahima, she's from Delhi, and she brings in the Delhi flavor in the company. I
She's
am
a she's a
pure.
force of nature.
Oh, she is with red hair. So yeah, so she tames everyone in the organization. I think I am the more free going one in the organization. So I think it balances out very, very nicely. So yeah, I think it's a good combination.
So, guys, I'll give a little interesting couple of tidbits about Jasmeet. Jasmeet is the only founder, and I call him the Shankar Mahadevan of founders, because I remember his pitch, his first pitch. He literally gave the entire pitch. I think it was about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah,
He gave the
probably
entire
more.
pitch in was it more?
It's
Well,
probably
it
more.
seemed
I
like five
remember
minutes because
we had
because
some 27 slides, and I went
yeah,
like,
and you went through them so,
yeah,
so guys, he didn't take a breath. This guy did
yeah,
not take a breath for 27 slides straight. And I remember at the end of it, I felt so much pity for the guy. I thought he was going to pass out. So I
yeah,
actually took a bottle of water and handed over to him. I said, before the Q&A, please have a bottle of water.
yeah.
So, okay, you know what, Jasmine, let's talk about that moment. What was it like? I believe it was your first pitch.
It was my first ever pitch, and the funniest part was the business presenting right after us had the same idea. So I had to kind of make an impact, and I had to go. My whole idea was, how do I set up the next guy at the same time, kind of creating an impact in our own pitch. And we're young founders, so I think that's something that we try to come out through a pitch, and that's probably why. And I was nervous, of course. I was shit nervous, because this is the first time. You probably, I've seen a lot of Shark Tank before, So in Shark Tank, you go in and stuff like that, but this was like Shark Tank in real time. So I think so I was very nervous, and so I was like, "यार मैं जो याद करके आया था, before I forget, let me just go on get done with it." So I think
But you know
that
what?
is
So I saw you 2 years later in Hong Kong, right? And we hung out the night before the time when I saw this pitch.
yeah,
I remember we were up till almost 2 a.m., right? And you gave almost the exact same infectious energy, exact same pitch. I was like, this. I remember taking a photograph, and I was like, this guy hasn't changed,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So are you still pitching the same way to VCs today? Like, are they
No,
offering you
no,
bottles of
no.
water?
No, I think I've changed a lot since then. Because now like I'm pitching to international investors, and especially the Chinese investors, they don't pick up English that fast. So
Yep.
now, I'll tell you so in my last so SOSV is one of our investors, right? And they also prepare you for a big demo day.
Yep.
So I still remember that one of my investors was like, "Hey man, you go too fast. Imagine that." You just walked in a room which is full of a lot of people, and they're looking at you, and the moment you speak, they're going to come kill you. So how do you whisper to someone and you want to save your lives?
Hmm.
So that's the speed that you have to get to. So I think that is when I learned, like, going like, "Hi, my name is Jasmeet, and I am the founder of Coutloot." So I think I went like that after that. But I think it's a process of evolution. I think you start very raw, and then experiences, people, and people that have groomed you, someone like you, they change you through the journey. So I think it's a part of that.
But Evolute you did, right? I think your seed round was about 50 lakhs. We remember there was just
It was about 70 lakhs, and
70
yeah,
lakhs. Oh yeah, sorry.
yeah, it was,
I'm sorry. I didn't count the
yeah,
clutch of angels, but I believe
yeah,
the largest two investors was
yeah, you and
Kapil and
couples.
Artha. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I know you struggled a lot to get that seed round together. In fact, I think even the next round after that was a bit of a struggle. But then
of
you
a
got
struggle.
SOSV on. You got
Yeah,
SOSV on board, and then then you've got the
cash plus
Chinese
on board.
P2P, yeah,
Yeah,
and Cashbus on board, and then recently you've got Amoeba Capital and
yeah,
a clutch of other investors. So let's
yeah.
talk about the journey, right? Let's talk about what was it like? What was the difference between raising that first round and let's say raising 3 million? Was the
Uh,
effort any more, any less? And for some of the people that are over here today,
yeah.
they must be wondering like, is it easier to raise the first 70? Was it easy, or was it easier to raise the last 22 crores?
I think it's pretty much the same effort. I think the
Really?
effort
Okay.
remains the same. I think what changes is the stakes in the game, and your ability as a founder to talk sense. In a seed round, you can show your energy, show the idea, and get through it. But when you come into later stage funding, I think you really have to cut down into pieces, explain what you're doing, get more into details. I think that changes, largely, but the pitch remains the same. I mean, you're a salesman. You're selling a story. You're selling a dream. You've been a door-to-door salesman, so I know, like, probably what it feels like. So I
But
mean,
that's the key part, right? You're
yeah.
actually trying to sell a story, and I think for some of the founders that are on here, could you just elaborate? Like, what do you mean? Like, because for many people, it's like, listen, when I'm pitching, the investor needs to get what I'm doing, right? And
Yeah,
he needs to
yeah,
understand what I'm doing, and he
yeah,
needs to, believe in the story. But
yeah,
what you're essentially saying, listen, doesn't matter. At the end of
yeah,
the day, remember you're selling them something, which
yeah.
is so. Maybe just talk about that.
So I think for every investor, so not all the investors would like the same story, right? So for example, it's the same like you go to buy a bottle of say cold drink. Not everyone drinks Pepsi. Not everyone drinks Thumbs Up. So
And
you
not for
you
the
have,
same reasons, right? Some people might drink thumbs up for, because they
yeah,
enjoy it. Some people drink it just because they've had a
or
heavy
it's a
meal,
mixer.
right? Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has different reasons. So I think you just need to understand. You as a founder, I think gut feeling is one of the most important things. You need to kind of feel the environment, feel the room, feel the other person, and figure out, yaar, ye kya sunna chahta hai. And
Hmm.
you then tell that part of your story. I mean, you don't have to always tell everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the whole idea is to get the next meeting. The whole idea is to get them involved in your business. The whole idea is to get them
It's
into
not one
interest.
size fits all, right? Of
Yeah,
course.
it's,
Yeah.
it's not.
I mean,
It's not.
every investor has their motivations to be in the room.
Yeah.
and you need to cater to all of them. So that's a
Yeah.
very important point. I mean, for founders that are listening in, it's not always about giving the same story to everyone. Sometimes you need to stress on certain parts of the story that would
Yep.
appeal to certain investors that may not appeal to other investors. And that
Yep.
is so important, right? That you need to eventually remember that you're
Yep.
selling shares of your company and you're
Yep.
not selling the company itself, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
And you're also kind of selling your dream. It's then it just not becomes your dream; it becomes everyone's dream. So
yep.
I think it's as good as getting your first few employees. Your first few employees are like yeah, ye kya hai? Then you're like you sell them that dream. I still
Yep.
remember there's this very very funny story that kind of changed me and my team, and it created a big impact on us. So I remember after we raised the seed round, we used to work out of a small. You've been to that office,
Yep.
very
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
small
Oh,
office.
that was not an office. That was a go down.
It was a
Right.
go down. It was
Yeah. It was a
literally a go
warehouse.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were working out of that go down where Aju Baju sirf factories ही factories hai. And I still remember we had raised our pre-A round from Cash Bus, and we were in the transition moment. We were finding offices to move into, and we hired a UI UX guy from Kerala. Okay, very funny story. He came all the way from Kerala to that office. He joined at like about 10 a.m. in the morning. Uh, we welcomed him like, "Ha, bro, welcome to the team," stuff like that. Of course, it's a very young organization. We are a very young team, so the culture always stays with us. I saw him in the morning. He was doing something, on his computer. In like during lunch break, he's like, "मैं lunch करके आता हूँ." He told some the other colleague, and the guy did not return for like couple of hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, and someone just gave him a call, and he's like, "Yeah, where are you?" He's like, "I am sorry, I came with a different expectation. I didn't, think of working out of a garage. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not what I wanted. I came from Kerala to Mumbai to be in a better place, not in the same place." I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought I'm coming to work in a tech startup, and here I am
Yeah.
in the middle of
Uh,
people carrying stuff, and it's a whole warehouse district, right?
yeah, it was like a printing press company, to be honest.
I remember coming to that office, and I was like, okay. I was like, I like these founders, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what it takes
Yeah.
sometimes. It's not always awesome.
Yeah.
But I do remember coming, I came to your office, the new one, right? When you guys had just got it.
The recent one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's about 7,000 square feet now. Nice. I think you can host something like
Yeah.
almost 100 people. How many people do you guys have right now?
Now we have almost about 75 people. We had 100 people until March. So the
Okay.
sales team kind of is now not working. So, but that office can fit, almost like about 150 people.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about COVID, and let's talk about what the things you
Yeah.
guys have been doing.
Yeah.
So obviously COVID hits. I know you were in the middle of raising all this money, and
Yeah.
COVID hit. It first hit China, then obviously it's
Yeah.
hit India, and we're still going through some of the
Yeah.
pains.
Yeah.
But tell me maybe a little bit about what did how did you cope with the situation?
Yeah.
Did it help to have some Chinese investors who could give you any
Yeah.
feedback? So yeah, let's start with that. Obviously you've got
Yeah.
Chinese backers, right? And there was
Yeah.
actually some Chinese capital waiting to come in before all of this started. So
Yeah.
what was the kind of advice you got from them? How did it help?
So the funniest part is, a part of my role involves being in China about 15 days of the month. So I came back to India on the 16th or 17th January. And we didn't know that COVID had already been, spreading in China. And Mahima was with me, and we were traveling to different cities, meeting new suppliers, for a B2B business. And we had a small office in Hangzhou as well. So we were kind of there, and we had no idea that there was this bubble which was about to burst. And I think once we came back and we read the news, and we're like, oh. I mean, this is like gonna, go crazy. And the funniest part is, I came back and I was sick, and but none of us knew about COVID back then. So I was
Dude, are you sure you want to talk about this? I don't want BMC at your.
no, now it's probably too late. So yeah. I mean, I live with a mother who's 60 plus, so she's fine. So I guess everything's fine. But yeah, so I think it prepared us. I think what we were in constant touch because some of our supplies got stuck due to the COVID, and the shipping companies weren't doing it, weren't releasing it. The customs weren't releasing it. So we figured that this is probably going to big if it can disrupt a whole country like China. Imagine it coming to India where there's a lot of our density and everything, and it might just have a bigger impact. So we kind of braced ourselves for impact way before, and we got an idea about what was going to happen. And so you probably laugh at me when I say this. We sold tomatoes, bro. We sold tomatoes. We sold
Wow.
bananas. We sold everything possible. So I think for COVID, what we did was we tied up with a lot of farm to home players like Ninja Cart, Village Agro, Indus Fresh, and in Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, we started delivering vegetables, essentials. We got in touch with a lot of our sellers who were selling essential categories, and we asked them to sell more. We made selling commission free for everybody. We
Wow.
said, you know what, everyone
Wow.
can sell,
Big.
for free online. And because apart from just running a startup or running a company, at the end of the day, you're doing it for India. You're doing it for your own people, and you're doing it for your own economy. So I think the impact part of it really hits me and hits the whole team right in the heart. And I think what we did to kind of change the business was we held back on our non-essential categories, and we just pushed out all the essential categories. And
Makes
during the
sense.
same
I
time,
remember seeing a lot of your
yeah.
creative stuff.
So,
Yeah.
so seller acquisition was the only kind of a thing that we did. It was just seller acquisition during that time. Get as many people to open stores. So yeah, that's what we did.
So now obviously things are changing, right? You're now the country's reopening. What's happening at Coutloot today? What are you working on? What are you excited about? And as
Yeah.
go ahead.
So I think a lot of things are coming back. They're not 100% back. I mean, I'll say we are probably about 60-70% recovered on the non-essential categories. Our essential categories is in fact still growing by about 300% month on month. So if we still kept that. We've not let that go because if times are uncertain, you don't know when the next lockdown will come in again. Right? I mean, it's too early to take a call on that. But what we are excited about is something that we are doing right now. So Coutloot is launching a video commerce platform where sellers and people can go live and sell products through.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you can cross post it on TikTok, cross post it on Instagram, cross post it on Facebook, and sell your products. So we believe that the power of people is the biggest people that it is, and essentially as a company selling products to business to people, we to consumers, we want our sellers themselves to be the testimony and sell products directly to consumers. And I think that is going to be a very interesting part in the Indian e-commerce space because no one's ever tried to do that at scale so far. And if it works out, then we'll know if it works out.
So and so let's talk about obviously Coutloot isn't doing what it started doing. What it started with, right? It's the first Coutloot. The Coutloot name came from what you were saying was a fashion Coutloot, right? It's second-hand fashion, and you guys were the only guys who are going to be doing second-hand fashion, and you could buy like I remember I sold a bunch of my shirts and suits online, and it's pretty good actually. I remember selling a shirt for more than I bought it for. I bought it in the US.
You're giving hacks to people. You're giving hacks to people.
Yeah, and it was, but it convinced me because when I sold that, right?
Yeah.
That definitely, it built confidence. There was people out there looking for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then let's talk about, so from there, you pivoted, and then obviously you have to pivot again, and you're pivoting again. So let's talk about all of that.
Yeah. So I think everything's temporary. I don't think that you can keep on doing one thing and be the best. I mean, that's ideal. Like if you can do, and it's great to read in books and do one thing and be the best at it. But the world is currently changing. Your consumers are changing. The Indian landscape is changing. Our internet users are changing. So if everything's changing, how can you just be doing one thing? So I think what happened was when we were selling secondhand products and when we were selling, products of celebrities and products from the movies and stuff like that, I think that was a time when we got a lot of traction, but there was more demand than there was supply. So I think we kind of figured that, because in the secondhand space, you only have one product of everything. right? You have one size of something that you like. So how do you cater to an audience that's still like 90% of it is still yet to come onto e-commerce? I mean, if we can't fulfill for the 4%, how can we fulfill for the rest 90%? So I think the evolution also came, by also speaking to players. Like Harsh has been one of the most impactful guys in our journey. I still remember, going to Harsh's office and, talking to him and asking him, yeah, bro, how do you run a business? So,
I remember. I remember. I think I was there for the meeting.
Yeah, you were, and you in fact connected us over email. I think that's how I met Harsh.
I actually remember we were sitting there and we got those cut fruits, right? And we were like, wow, this is how Series C funded company sort of operates.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think
4 p.m. all the employees getting fruits. That was pretty awesome. Did that have an impact on you, knowing that, once I get big, is this one of the things I want to do?
Big time. I think you always imagine a picture in your head ki this is what I want to do, or this is who I want to become, and that changes every time when you keep on growing, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when I went to Find, I saw like everything was so process oriented, and for us at that time we were just a bunch of youngsters trying to create a company. So I think that's something I picked from Harsh, that processes, tools, having a set guidelines, it actually cleans up your system, big time. So I think that's what, and you always look up to people. Like I remember coming up to you with problems, saying, "Yaar, ab ye kaise karu?" And I remember that one session in your office, and I walked out with my head down.
We learned unit economics that day.
Yeah, I remember that. And I mean, these are small things that keep on changing you and carving you as a founder, and it's a journey. I mean, I always say, there's nothing to lose, there's everything to make, because right now we're all, the Indian economy, the landscape of technology startups, we're all still very young. So there's only one way, is to go up from here.
So let's take a question, and there's a question from one of the viewers, and it is like, what got the first set of employees to take the plunge? And we talked about the whole Kerala situation, but let's see. I believe you had 4 co-founders when you guys started.
Yeah.
And then you guys hired people, and then you've been through some of that journey. So what got that first group of people to get going?
So I would love to tell you guys about our first employee. Okay, and his name's Mahindra. He's the first engineer from his village. He comes from a village called Velok, which is almost about 200 kilometers from Mumbai. He's the first engineer from his village. He was our first employee. That guy used to travel every day 3 hours in train, come to office, not office, to my home. We started Coutloot out of there.
That's impressive.
And he paid us to do that. That's the funniest part. He didn't take a salary at that time because we were just starting up. But I think and today that guy almost leads at tech. So he's one of the most paid employees in the organization as well. So I think, for the first few employees, what you have to do is you have to sell, or not just sell, it's not always about selling. I think you have to make them believe in what you believe in. And, that's probably, and it's always the team. It's never the founders. I always say, we are the front face. The magic happens where you can't see. It's not us. So for us, I mean, it's always been a collaborative effort. And for the first few employees, you have to tell them what's in it for them. And the potential is what you have to explain to them. Like, and at the same time, you also need to hear to them. There are times when they have the best of suggestions and your business changes because of those suggestions, because you're not always right. As a founder, you make mistakes all the time. And I always say, if you have to make mistakes, let's make mistakes as a team. And that's fine. We'll take it as a team. So, yeah.
Good. I agree with you that, even as this fund that I've been running for the last 18-24 months, it's a new venture, right? But what's really got us through, and we've been through so many things. We've been through COVID. We've been through one of the founders of the company getting cancer. We've been through a bunch of personal and professional issues. But what's really been interesting is that the team has always held together, and that core team, if it is together, then obviously it sort of goes out to everyone else. So that's hiring that first team and making sure you got the right people on board, the guys that are going to back you through good and bad. That is so important. You know, that's such an important point for any founder who's listening in today.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you two stories. You know, very quickly. One of our, you know, again, early guys, Vaibhav, he just got hired by Jio about last week. And he got hired at almost like 2x, 3x what we were paying him. And, you know, he's been with us for about 4 years. And, you know, one of the reasons that, you know, he told me, he's like, I'm not leaving the company, you know, or I don't want to leave the company because, you know, I don't like the company. I love the company. I want to leave the company so that I can go learn and come back and do something here again. And, you know, that's one of the things. And he's still actually working with us, like as consultant. So he's consulting. No, the other guy got hired by Flipkart as their UI designer. So the Flipkart homepage that you see, it's our UI guy who's behind it.
Oh wow! So and it's interesting. You also came from Unilever, right? So you came from this MNC kind of a background into and starting, you know, getting your startup going. So Jasmeet, maybe tell us, you know, how important was it for you to actually start off with an MNC like that? What do you and what did you take from there that you think really helps in your business today?
So I think at Unilever, I don't know if you know this story. I was rejected at Unilever the first time I went to interview at Unilever. So I was this 21-year-old boy who went to interview at Unilever. I was working at Godrej, and I was in the consumer space in Godrej. I just finished my engineering. I was working at Godrej. It was a year. I interviewed at Unilever. I got rejected, you know, by two very senior guys that told me, "Oh, you're just too young to be working here." And I think I still remember, you know, I called up a friend and I literally cried. Then I said, you know what, I'm going to come back and work here. So for 3 months, I did some freelancing with Pepsi IPL. I went back again to interview at Unilever through reference. And the funniest part was I was interviewing in the same room I was rejected in. And I was like, yaar, ab to kuch haarne ke liye hai hi nahi. Jo hoga dekha jayega. So that's when the Punjabi instinct kind of came in. And luckily, I cracked that interview. I went better prepared. So this is what failure teaches you. It teaches you to be better prepared. So I was better prepared. I went better prepared for the interview. And after that, what Unilever taught me was much more than an MBA. It was much more. It teaches you life. I think the way they take care of your employees, the way they teach you the basics of business. Because at 22, I was handling the brand called Pears, which is almost a 700 crore rupee brand back then. And for the first time, it was like all alien to me. But Unilever literally taught me, you know, like they literally taught me. I was hanging out with the best of guys, with IM grads, with, you know, big directors. So the guy who hired me, the guy who actually
just 1 second. Can you get to a place where there's a little bit better network? Because you're getting blurry and there's a lot of questions. People messaging me directly that it's getting a bit blurry.
Can I join in again? It's still blurry?
Yeah, join in again. Yeah, it's still blurry. I think I don't know if you're...
Okay.
Yeah. Can
cool.
we... Yeah, good. Yeah, nice and clear.
Cool.
All right.
So
Jasmeet, let's talk about investors, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked about, you know, having your different set of investors, but can you tell me what was an interesting role, or how important was the role of that seed investor? I know Kapil spent a lot of time with you.
Still does.
And, you know, Anuj, who actually interned with Artha for a bit, also spent a lot of time with you. And you know, we've had a bunch of conversations.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, and now you've got these Chinese investors, you've got SOSV on board. What have you taken from each set of investors that has helped you build Coutloot to what it is today?
I think you know, every investor is like a bridge to the next step. And I think that's the role that every investor needs to play. So I still remember, you know, like the first investors, you, Kapil sir, you know, you guys taught us the basics of business, you know, of running a startup. You know, what is unit economics? Do you understand your own unit economics? I still remember that conversation. Do you understand your own business? So I think what the first investor teaches you is to actually get the basics of business right. You know, create an organization at some level. And then the next set of investors that come in, they actually help you scale. So, you know, you can always say that the first investor helps you sow the seeds. The next investors water the crops. like waters those seeds, and the next one, helps you cut the crops. So I think it's always that kind of a phenomena, and and always I think you need to have a very open relationship with your investor. It's like an open relationship. And you need to be honest about if you have any problems or if you have any opportunities, and I think that really helps. Being open to investors always helps, and always every investor has a different kind of a flavor. Like I know what Anirudh is great at, I know what Kapil sir is great at, I know what Amoeba guys are great at. So as a founder, you also need to get those things out of your investor, because it's like a marriage. We're married, we just stay apart, but we can ask things from each other.
You know what your mother's good for, and you know what your wife is good for. I get your point.
Yeah,
all the married founders out there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. But so we've got a question, right? So one of them is from Vishal. The question is, how did you handle rejection from investors?
Yeah, I think in that case, I think I handled a lot of rejections after my seed round. I didn't handle a lot of rejections earlier on. So I thought, fundraising was really easy. Yeah, it's not simple. It was that. But then I think when the stakes starts getting higher, I think rejection is a part of the process. And you don't need 100 people to say yes to you. You just need 1 or 2 people to say yes to you. So so rejection is a part of the process, and it's same like you like a girl. But she's not going to date you because, of course, she doesn't like you that much. But you keep on trying, right, until you get a girl. So it's or similarly for a girl to get a boy like that she likes. So I think it's exactly that kind of a thing. The only difference is that it's not love, it's business. So,
but I remember that. I mean, to your example, right? You were trying to get these Chinese investors a few years back. Yeah. You're facing a ton of issues. I remember we having a conversation. We said, listen, I'm going to go camp out in China for 30 days. Yeah. And I'll either come without the investment or we're going to shut this company down. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And 30 days later, you came back with money. Yeah. Right? And with a lot of experience. So maybe just talk about that so that, founders like Vishal can understand the kind of perseverance it takes to convince investors.
Yeah. I think it's not a one-day journey. I mean, what you see in the media, what you see as a product, I mean, there goes a lot behind it. I mean, there are nights where you can't sleep because, oh shit, app nahi chal raha hai. Oh shit, ye show aa gaya. Oh shit, that. So, these are, as a founder, it's not always the big things that matter. It's always the smaller things that matter. How we got interesting. Because there were 16 startups that went to China, and I still remember the night before I went to China, I met Kapil sir, and I told Kapil sir, yeah, I'm paying so much for the tickets, I don't think we should, because I can save that money, invest in the company. And he's like, you know what, if you raise money, that's great. If not, go take a vacation. Don't stress yourself. And I think Mahima and I went with the same intention, but what we did there was something very, very interesting, and this is something I always tell other founders raising funds.
Yep.
So we went to the Indian
Embassy. Let's talk about that. I remember you had to edit your presentation. Let's talk about that part.
Yeah. So we went to the Indian Embassy, and there were 16 startups sitting in Beijing. I was probably one of the most least expected to raise money from there because of the business that we were doing. And there was Benny Chen sitting on the podium, and he's the guy who invested in Paytm. So he was telling everyone that, someone asked him a question, why did you invest in Paytm? He said, you know what, the moment I walked into Paytm's office, I knew I was going to invest in them. And someone asked him how. He's like, the moment I entered, Paytm, there was on the right side, there was something written as 500 million by 2020 will transact online using Paytm. And that was vision. He said, I did not invest in the company, I invested in the vision. And, we looked at ourselves and we said, yeah, our slide doesn't even have a vision. So let's create a vision right now. So, I mean, as a founder,
investors need to know your vision.
It's as simple as that. I mean, he needs to know what is he investing in. He's not just investing in people. He's investing in what you are going to create. I mean, of course, you are a means to that. So I think that night what we did was we went to a hotel bar, and there was a guy who could speak English and Chinese. The first thing we did was we changed our whole presentation into Chinese. And we knew, because in the first day, we knew that not a lot of people spoke English here. And this is the first time I was going to China. And so we worked the whole night. We made our team stay back. We changed the whole presentation. The next day when we presented, I think out of the 16 startups, we were the only one that got money. So I think this is one thing that, always makes an impact is just be smart. You have to be street smart. You don't have to be, a techie or like really intelligent or like a cat student ranked number one. No, you could be just like an average 50 percentile kind of a student and still do wonders. The business world doesn't care about your degree. It cares about how you survive. So I think that's important.
Whether you have the tenacity to stay there, right, and exist. So another question that we have is, did you reject any investor ever?
And yes, we did. Yes.
Have you ever rejected investment from an investor?
Yes, we have.
And why?
I think like recently, I mean, we had a couple of other term sheets. And probably with the valuation that was a little higher. But I think what we did was we looked at, what was the value the investors getting. It's not. So I always tell, everyone that when you reach a certain stage, you need to understand that investors are investing in your business after the seed round, not just you as a founder. So if you've created a decent enough business, you don't have to act, very pricey, but you do have to act a little pricey. Because, it's just like the founders community, same as the investors community. People are like, हाँ ये तो मेरे पास भी आया था, अच्छा ये तो मेरे पास भी आया था. So don't go to everybody. Just do very, very targeted, kind of, investor reach out. And
not a spray and pray model.
Yeah, I mean, I think that does not work anymore because the world is such a small place and everyone's connected. And everyone knows ki kaun kya kar raha hai and stuff like that. So I always believe that, just see what the investor brings on the table. For me, I remember, when luckily when we got you on board, in this case, it was the other way around. You actually selected us. So I think we remember that, you had a lot of big portfolios behind your, investments. And I think, one of the first conversations I had with Mahima and the team was like, how do we leverage this? There's this guy with a lot of connections. How do we leverage this? So I think, you also have to, think what is the benefit and what is the learning you can get from the other investor and take a call accordingly.
There's one more question before we go to rapid fire.
Yeah.
The question is, what is more important, the right investor or the investment?
It depends on the stage that you are. So I would say in an early stage, any money is money, man. At a later stage, then that...
The color of money is green.
Yeah, I mean, any money is money. It doesn't matter. It comes from whoever. So I think that's at the early stage. I mean, any money is money. You're going to pay for the bill with money. You're not going to pay ki kiska paisa hai. And then eventually at a later stage, I think that matters, that who is investing in you, because that also builds a profile for the company. I remember when Amoeba Capital came on board, we received a lot of emails from investors that had missed out on that round with saying, oh shit, we should have, come in. So it's all about, and nothing's temporary. I mean, I always tell everyone, nothing's temporary. Sometimes, investors chase you, sometimes you chase the investors, and it's a process, yeah. I mean, there are good days, bad days, just enjoy whatever's there. Just smile at the end of the day.
So true. I think rolling with the punches at the end of the day is the most important part, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always said that eventually you're going to have passive investors and you're going to have active investors, and you need to understand the motivation of each person coming into your story.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to bring an active investor but then treat him as passive money, you're obviously doing something incorrect, and you're going to have issues over there. And if you're going to bring a passive investor and expect him to be active in your cap table, then again you're making a mistake.
Yep.
Good. So Jasmeet, before I move into rapid fire, I believe are you guys raising? What's the the future for the company right now?
So we've just recently closed the round.
So fundraising plan.
Yeah, so we will start raising in the next couple of months. It's going to be a much sizable round. It's going to be largely a growth round where we also not just invest in getting shops online, but we also invest in supply chain that we've recently started. So we not just help shops go online, but we also help them with supply at cheaper costs. So I think that's one of the things that we've been building for a longer time. And that's the longer vision as well, is like, not just be a digitization kind of a channel, but also be, someone that the shops depend on you for, which is supply. And when you control the supply, you literally control the life cycle. So I think add more value to the sellers as much as you can. And that's what, because for us, our sellers are like our Ola driver. They're not just driving the car and maintaining it. Our sellers bring the products, they sell it, they sell it like a salesman. Yep. They bargain with the buyers, and they're very happy to sell it. So I think these are interesting times. COVID's definitely opened a lot of doors for us. It's also exposed a lot of vulnerabilities for us. And I think it's all about keep on doing what you're doing and keep on changing while you're at it. So yeah.
So being flexible and being dynamic is the name of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, no one knows everything, right? I mean, I personally don't know everything. I'm still learning every day. Like yesterday, I learned some new FDI laws. So the point is, we've been learning something new.
we all did in the last few weeks.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, I this time I learned something very interesting. I'll tell you offline.
Okay, good. So Jasmeet, you know what? We have about 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
And I've got a list. So we're gonna start a small section towards the end. We're gonna call it the rapid fire round. I'm gonna ask you about 10 questions. You to just without thinking, right? And I know it's easy for you because you're one of those guys that wears his heart on his sleeve. So we're gonna ask you questions, just whatever comes to mind, right? So are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Stretch out a little bit.
I'll just make my hair because I've got
first question.
This long hair.
Yeah.
No haircut, man.
First question.
Yeah.
No. Well, maybe Coutloot should try that.
Oh, come on. No.
And essentially.
Yeah. I mean, not our space.
So first question. Yeah. Let me go with that.
Yeah.
Rapid fire question number 1. What do you know now that you wish you would have known earlier?
That not everyone knows everything. So what you say becomes the story.
One piece of advice that you received in your journey as an entrepreneur that you still follow?
Relook at yourself every night before you sleep. What have you done today?
Biggest advice to founders about fundraising?
It's a storyteller. Be Shah Rukh Khan.
It's a story, sorry?
It's a story. Be Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, just say it.
Be Shah Rukh Khan. Wow, that's original. I have not heard that one, but yeah, it's so true though. Yeah. Always be selling the story. Don't be selling share. Don't be selling. When we were selling door to door, we used to call it sell the sizzle, not the meat. Right?
That's true.
And if you can sell the sizzle, that's what really counts.
Yeah.
Good. One piece of advice that sounded good when you heard it as a founder, but ended up being extremely bad advice.
Don't change yourself. I think that's the worst advice.
Did you follow it?
No, I never followed it. I think I followed it. I followed it early.
I agree. I don't think you did.
But I did not.
But so, what are you doing when you're not building Coutloot?
I think I'm traveling the world. I think I find time between when I go to work and come back to India. I just find time between going to new places. I think I love that.
Good. And where do you see Coutloot in the next 1 year?
I think
that's the vision statement now.
I mean, we're already in the top 30 e-commerce apps in India. I think you'll definitely hear more about us. We'll probably have a much bigger impact than we currently do. We are at about 4 lakh sellers. We'll probably be more than 15 lakh sellers in the next 1 year.
Wow. And where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where is Coutloot going to be?
If everything works out well, we're gonna be the Shopify of India.
Fantastic! Wow, that's good. I mean, so an IPO and everything, I'm expecting.
Hopefully.
So I'm holding on to my shares. I'm not giving up on any secondary.
I hope you don't.
But you gotta let me ring the bell with you whenever you go to whether it's BSC or Nasdaq. You have to take me on.
For sure.
And I won't sell my shares.
I promise you, okay. We'll have a few shots before we get there.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure. Can we do a shot? Let's talk about it later. Okay. If an investor can provide one value to you besides the money,
Yeah.
what would it be?
His contacts. Get into the system. Everything is about contacts. Get into his address book, man. Just get him to introduce you to the right people, and you never know what can happen.
I always see Party Hard Driver gets so excited when we start talking about drinking, right? So,
Yeah.
one thing you would like to change about the Mumbai startup ecosystem?
Guys, get the ego out. We're all one. We're all in the same mess, man. I mean, Mumbai doesn't even have a startup ecosystem. I'll be very honest to you. And it's a good and bad thing. So in Bangalore, what I see in the startup ecosystem, everyone's just competing with each other. Arey, ye kar raha, main bhi ye karunga. It's like wo building ki padosan, right? But in Mumbai, I think we don't have a startup ecosystem as. I mean, we have it, but it's not evolved. But yeah, I mean, guys, let it loose, man. Like you never know what we can build together. So yeah.
Yeah, I do sense that a collaborative approach is always lacking, right? And
yeah,
we're always in a game of one-upmanship, right? But it's not just about founders. I think I see the same thing in angel investors. See the same thing maybe even in funds, and we need to get better as a pack, right? And I think I always notice that the Chinese always hunt in a pack, and we try to be the lone wolf, right? And I think that's something that for all of us to learn.
And I think one of the things that they do is they have these learning sessions on WeChat. So they will get someone from outside, and that guy will do like a learning session, and all the founders can ask them questions, and it's beautiful. It's just amazing. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Good. I think that's something that we might need to look at as well.
Yeah.
Good. So this is a bit of a dream sequence for you. If you could pick the brains of one founder for 24 hours, who would it be? Any founder. You can choose whoever you want.
I think Ashneer from Bharat Pay. I met him once, and that guy knew his shit, man. He knew his shit. In fact, we are doing something with them.
Maybe we should. I could probably make that happen.
Yeah, probably
make that happen.
Yeah.
Good. And what would you like to learn from him?
From him? So that guy is. I met him about like three months ago, and he gave me, he told me about the startup ecosystem, and he's been worked with growers before, and he's worked with really big startups. And what BharatPay is becoming such a small time, it's interesting. He said, you know what, you don't need to innovate, you just need to channelize, and that's what BharatPay does. It has not innovated. What it does is it actually aggregates Phone Pay, Google Pay, all the big pays on a single sticker. That's it. It's just so simple.
Honestly speaking, it's Bharat Pay. So I have a lot of companies in my anti-portfolio. I've got Open, I've got Raw Pressery, I've got Zoomcar, all of these guys. The one that hurts the most is Bharat Pay.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article for Mint recently, about maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And I just said, the thing was, I was in the middle of making this fund and I didn't have time to meet them. Yeah. And if I'd ever met them, I think just with the kind of infectious energy that they have,
it's crazy.
And the fact that I've backed founders that I've in the past, I would have definitely been on that cap table. It didn't matter, even if it was just one share.
Can I tell you something? When you look at Bharat Pay's office from outside, you can't even imagine that it's going to be $1 billion startup. It's just that. And when you actually go and meet the founders, you're like, whoa, man, you guys are substance inside. And that's not a very Delhi thing, by the way. So, I was surprised. I was surprised when I met Ashneer, and I was like, amazing. It was just one phone call I had with him, and he's like, "Ek kaam kar, kal flight pakad ke aa jao." So I was like, okay.
A book that you're reading right now.
So I think 80/80, I lost you in between.
A book that you are reading right now. What's the book you're reading right now?
I am not reading any book right now. I'll be very honest to you.
Oh man, I wish I could make you take a shot for that. Okay, but what's a book that okay, what's a book that you would recommend for founders? I mean, there was a question on this as well. Is there a book that you would recommend for founders to read?
So I don't
Maybe one of
read,
the ones you.
no, so I don't read a lot of books. I do watch a lot of TED videos. I do watch a lot of case studies. That's something that resonates with me because I'm a more of a image kind of a person than a reading kind of a person. So that works for me. So I do watch a lot of the journeys of companies, founders, even TED videos, anything innovative. So recently I read about this Mitti Cool, which is a refrigerator made out of clay pot.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think and one book that I had read that I really loved was called Jugaad Innovation. And
Yes.
that I think that book was so me. I mean, it's all about
I can so see that book being you actually.
yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree. That book is so you.
Yeah. So it was all about fixing the tapes everywhere. जहाँ पे टूटा है टेप से बांधो, बैंडेड लगाओ और इसको चलाओ, and फिर बाद में देखेंगे, पार्ट चेंज बाद में करेंगे. So it's always about that.
So I mean, it's so for anybody who's listening, it's not always about reading all the books. Sometimes reading books, and you can always find it's about gaining knowledge, and you can gain knowledge from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a TED talk, whether it's audiobooks, whether it's podcasts, blogs. I follow a lot of blogs, for example, and yeah, I'm very very interesting. So I think anything you want to say before we end the show for today?
I think
Jasmeet.
this was great. I mean, AD has always been, and I hope to see you as a part of the journey as always. We are offline. We're also great buddies. When we've had like a great thing going for ourselves. But I think for everyone that is starting up or wants to start up, I always say that there's nothing to lose, man. Just give it a shot. You will always regret what if part. You want to get an answer to that. I think, what if I would have done that? What if I would have done that? I mean, no one's stopping you. It's a free world. We live in an age where everything's available to us. Internet's available to us. Devices are available to us for cheap. But don't start a startup just for the glory part of it. Because after a point, you will probably start hating the whole thing. And do it if you really can grind yourself. It's not a glorious journey. I mean, to everyone who thinks it's a glorious journey, no, it is not. It is probably a real tread kind of it's a marathon. And in this marathon, I think you'll bruise yourself, you'll lose a few people, you'll hurt your back,
Lose a few teeth.
yeah, you'll lose a few teeth, you'll go through everything, you'll go through nights when you don't want to wake up the next day. But trust me, every day is different, and that's why I do this, and that's why my team does it, because we believe that we can create something that can change things. And if you believe in an impact driven business, and you think your business can drive impact, don't start a startup by the thing कि मैं पैसा कमाऊंगा and stuff like, oh मैं पैसे वाला बन जाऊंगा, मैं बिल गेट्स बन जाऊंगा. पॉसिबल ही नहीं है यार. एक ही सचिन तेंदुलकर है, एक ही बिल गेट्स है. So the point is just be yourself, be honest to yourself, be true, and just have fun while you're at it. And there's nothing to lose, man. There's nothing to lose. Just have fun.
So I think that's a great way to end the show for today, guys. Be yourself. There's only one Sachin Tendulkar. There'll only be one Bill Gates. And you know what? In the future, I hope 5 years from now, when I'm doing this show, we're gonna say there was only one Jasmeet Thind.
Amen.
So thank you so much, Jasmeet, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the interaction as always.
Same
and while we could not share a drink tonight, I definitely look forward that once we're done with the lockdown, we're safely with enough social distancing allowed to meet each other in a bar, we'll be dancing again.
For sure.
And having a bunch of fun.
For sure, man. For sure.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good night, Jasmeet.
Thank you so
Take
much,
care.
Lily. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.